Hot Springs Village Inside Out is a closer look at the greatness of Hot Springs Village, Arkansas, and the surrounding areas. People, places, experiences. Hot Springs Village is one of the most beautiful places on earth. Join me, Randy Cantrell, and my co-host, Dennis Simpson, as we engage in weekly conversations to explore Hot Springs Village Inside Out. Today's show is brought to you by Central Arkansas's favorite radio station, KVRE. Find them on the dial at 92.9 FM. Stream them live at kvre.com. RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village, the award-winning RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village, is the largest real estate office inside the village with over 30 full-time agents and support staff. Visit them to learn more about this beautiful place to solve your real estate needs. Call them today at 1-800-364-9007 or find them online at explorehsv.com. They are RE/MAX of Hot Springs Village at 1-800-364-9007 or online at explorehsv.com.
It fell this summer.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's all right. And I brought a fish, a 52-foot marlin, back from Texas as a statue on Lake Hamilton. Used to be a fountain. It fell over this year. But I had flown up there and looked at it, and it was laying on its side in a factory. Didn't look that big. And the guy that I was doing this stuff for called and said, "Can you go get it?" I said, "Sure." So I ran down there with a big trailer to get it, and it was standing up on its nose and its tail. And I was a foot over legal, no permit, crossing the state line. And in Arkansas, they don't mark the bridge clearances.
No.
And so I knew about how much taller than a semi I was. And so I just held my breath under every overpass from Texarkana to Hot Springs.
Ouch, ouch. I've got a story to tell later about that. But oh my God. So you had the 52-foot marlin, right?
Yep.
Incredible. Everybody joining us today, this is Larry Rhodes. Dennis Simpson here with Hot Springs Village Inside Out, Mr. Larry Rhodes. If you don't know Larry, you're about to. And that's the joy of it is, Larry, you've been from around these parts, and we'll come to that in a minute. But the bottom line is, and I want to kind of make sure I get to the primary parts early, is that you're the new owner of what was the Fiesta Bowl bowling alley. And you're now calling it Liberty Lanes, which, if anybody's watching, you can understand from his shirt that maybe he's probably a communist with that shirt on. But tell me, how did you wake up one morning and go, "Man, I got to buy me a bowling alley. I just can't wait to get one"?
Actually, no, never was on my radar. A friend of mine actually came to the center that we were bowling in a league and said, "Hey, I hear Fiesta's for sale. We ought to buy it." And his wife said no immediately. And so I told my wife, I said, "We ought to buy it." She said, "You're crazy." And so that conversation just kind of died. And about 3 weeks later, I said, I'm going to go out there and talk to him and see what he wants for it, because I'd heard prices all over the map. And so I drove out. My wife and I talked to Bob.
Now, this is Bob Peters that's owned it about a decade here in the village.
Correct.
He'd had it quite a while.
Yep. And we talked to him. It was clean. My wife went in the bathroom. She said, "It's clean." And so I knew I'd been in the center bowl previously. And I had Brunswick and AMF do a survey for me. They had good news.
Really?
I had never considered it. It was a God thing. We ended up purchasing the center with no money down.
Really?
And so all things fell into place that we couldn't have put into place. And it was a win-win in our book.
Bigger and greater than you could ever have imagined for. That's typically how those God things work. I don't know if you know that, but I have.
Yes,
we both can testify to some of these things that, I feel like some days I was standing around and the lightning bolt hit and I was like, "Well, okay, sure. Thanks. That'll do. That'll do." Yeah. I appreciate that.
Exactly. Exactly.
And let's go back to the money side just for a second, because there have been discussions that there will be some significant improvements at the newly named Liberty Bowl. I imagine driving by last night, I thought, when's the new sign coming? You're going to have to get a new sign, right?
We are working on the new sign. As a matter of fact, we've been working on it for a while. We've been tinkering with the artwork to get it exactly like we want, because the issue is that's two signs up there. They're two separate cabinets.
Oh, two segment.
And
yeah.
Yeah, and the pin that's there now, which was the Jose or whoever it was in the center, divides those two cabinets, and there's about an 8 to 10 inch gap. And so we're putting a new pin with the Statue of Liberty kind of crown on it in that
cool.
spot. And then we're going to separate those two signs. And we finally got the artwork like we want it. And so we're getting significant help from one of our suppliers to pay for a big portion of that sign. So
wow.
It's in the works.
Well, and let me come back to this. Now, the reason I even brought up the sign is because that's the most outward expression.
Correct.
But I'm frankly, I haven't bowled. It's been 20 years. Okay. And we chatted shortly about this the other day in a kind of a pre-meeting. I was like, well, is bowling on the rise? Is bowling whatever? But let me interject before we even go there. The number has been tossed about of 2 to 3 million to improve this place, which is unbelievable to me. And it's going to be what in the state? What? Tell me the ballpark.
It will be at the end of our expansion. We will be the only official training center in the state. We will be the only center with the Specto system, which is a ball tracking system. It tracks the ball every 500 thousandths of an inch down the lane.
Really?
And what that system does is it allows you to see the rotation where you release the ball, your ball track from your hand to the pins, so that we can make those minor significant changes and help create better scoring. We have 2 pros that will be running the training center. I know one for sure, Josh Imhoff.
Mm-hmm.
My children bowl against him when he was a youth bowler. He just turned pro this year, and he will be running the pro shop and the training center. They will have 2 lanes designated just for private lessons, and then we have Specto on 4 other lanes that will be controlled by the center.
Unbelievable. Now, this from a guy who, would you have considered yourself a bowler 6 months ago or a year ago?
I was a bowling coach, a high school
really?
bowling coach, volunteer. I volunteered for Lakeside. We won 2 state championships while I was in that role.
Will there be I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I was going to say, is there a physical expansion? Is there going to be more lanes added? I mean, give me the whole byline.
At this point, we borrowed an extra $150,000 when we made our initial loan to put in new lanes, approaches, and pin decks on the 16 existing lanes. That will happen this fall. The next phase is to add another 20,000 square feet to the building toward the, I guess that would be toward the southwest.
Yeah, southwest, toward Walmart.
Anyway,
toward Walmart.
we own 2 acres on that side of the building, and that will be an additional 16 lanes plus a 2,000 square foot pro shop.
Now, let me go ahead. I'm sorry.
That will be our final expansion, which get us to 32. And the reason 32 is the number I'm shooting for. My original goal when we bought this was to bring the PBA to Hot Springs.
You're kidding. My goodness. And what people don't understand, there's a significant bowling center in Little Rock. The one in Maumelle is quite nice. The one in is it still the Professor Bowl?
Professor Bowl.
Yeah,
correct.
in West Little Rock. And it's a nice enough place. It's a big spot, nice place. These places they've got some teeth on, some years on them. I mean, they're getting along in the teeth. They're 30 and 40 years apiece old that are getting that way. And they're nice enough places. They're not PBA centers, and they're not world-class centers, and they're not attracting national tournaments. So and let me put this to the outside listener that may or may not understand the scope of this. You're talking about the capital city of Arkansas, 3 million people in the state of Arkansas, 3.3 roughly, something like that, about a 500,000 in the central Arkansas area. And you're going to bring a PBA tournament, or your intent is to bring a PBA scale tournament size product to a town of maybe 19,000, if you consider people outside the gates. This is remarkable.
Correct.
This is remarkable,
Correct.
Larry. That's just exciting, man. That's awesome.
Well, and my deal is if Jonesboro can do it, we can do it. And I know Kelly works his butt off, the manager at Jonesboro at
Yeah.
Hijinks. I commend him. He's probably the best in the world at what he does.
Really?
I see no
putting the
reason
tournaments
why
together
we
or whatever.
can't.
Or
Well, attracting. He's had televised PBA events. He's got a PBA regional this next weekend. He has done a significant thing to what was a family entertainment center, not necessarily a PBA style bowling center.
now, and let's come back to this for people like myself that maybe haven't been to a bowling alley in 20, 25 years or more. So is there the greasy hot dog that's been on the slider for the last 8 weeks? Is there how does the dining? How is that? Give me a feel for at the end zone. What's this going to be like?
We have changed the food somewhat. We changed suppliers and we changed the quality of the food. Best I can say that.
Right.
We still aren't finished, but the reason I want to go where we're going is this center is, for lack of a better term, in no man's land. It's not in a quote unquote tourist destination and where we're sitting.
Yep.
It's not in a big city. It lends itself to be a league tournament bowling center.
And it's
so
not
that's
it's
our
not on a major
focus.
highway or anything. It's not
Correct.
all of the I get your point. You're building an oasis.
Exactly. Exactly. And to do that, and I've got a lot of feelers out. Matter of fact, Jeff, that was going to be on with us today, he knows the contacts. I've got another guy that was a pro that I coached with that lives in Oklahoma, and he knows a lot of people. As soon as we get our new lane surfaces in on the 16 that we have now, we're going to push to get a PBA 50 regional event.
Now and by the way, we were hoping to have Jeff Adkins with us, friend of the show, longtime friend of mine, and great, wonderful guy, and who just happens to be in the Arkansas Bowlers Hall of Fame, and who he watches my dog when I'm in Spain. I watch his house while he's on the pro bowler, while he's on the tour. He's going. And is the 50 plus, is that the seniors? He called it
that basically that would be seniors, kind of like
Okay.
the PGA seniors.
Now
It's those.
I was going to say what he had told me before is, he would go to South Florida and he would spend 3 or 4 weeks going to 4 or 5 tournaments all in a row. And then he would go to Vegas and there would be 3 or 4, there would be some outside Vegas, some in a Reno area or whatever. So they were just kind of concentrated around each other. Is there anybody else we concentrate with, or is it just you'd be on your way to Hot Springs Village, Arkansas?
You would be on the way here. I mean, there's some in Texas. There's, like I said, next weekend, there's one in Jonesboro. There's several in the edge of Tennessee, Oklahoma. Bowling in Arkansas is not the sport it is in Texas.
Oh, I can see
in
that.
Texas, even the youth program is completely different. And so that being said, I want to see us help change the face of what bowlers from this area. When I was coaching, there were $32 million in bowler scholarships that were left unclaimed simply because there were no youth that knew that they were even available.
32 million.
Yep.
Has this been 20 years ago?
This was in 2018.
So it's been 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Yep.
Holy cow, man. So I don't want to use the term lightly, but and the reason I was asking about the restaurant and everything, I mean, I imagine the bar area is going to be reconfigured and upgraded.
Correct.
I don't know. I see photos that Jeff would send, and he would be in what's the place outside Vegas? There's a anyway.
I know the
I'm
yeah, I
thinking
know
of the
where you're
area
talking the
around Pawn
stadium.
Stars and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And he would send pictures, and this would be this is the lobby and the bar restaurant for the bowling center. And it looked like the interior of Oaklawn Casino.
right,
And I would look at this and go, this is a bowling bar? This is a bowling. He said some of the best food he'd ever had.
right.
And I'm like, so this bar, outside Arkansas, this bar is at a place we don't even conceive of, I'm assuming. And you're bringing that to Hot Springs Village. I think we owe you a thank you, Larry. I think
Well,
we do.
I I appreciate that, but that's not what we're doing it. I'm doing this because we love to bowl, and I want a place where people can have fun.
Well, let me and let's be fair about this. I've noticed that people that have super simple mottos or mission statements or whatever, we want to do this with people, bowl and have fun. You can succeed at that if you have a super specific mission statement that says we're gonna. That's a little harder to do.
Right.
Tell me this: how do you want to, you know, the village has inside, outside, maybe 19,000, 20,000 people in that ballpark. Maybe in this area, not greater area or whatever, 1,000 students of school age, in that ballpark. Uh, that leaves a whole lot of people like me, 50 plus, 60 plus, who haven't bowled in a long time. How do you bring those people in and get them engaged? Is it weekly tournaments? Is it league play? What do you do?
Well, we do a couple of things. We do the color pen deal on Saturday night.
What is that?
It is a just an event. It had been going on and kind of had lost a lot of its luster. We changed some things when we started, when we took over, and it's designed for everybody. Yes, there are some significant cash prizes for better bowlers, but everybody wins some money. And in fact, in the last 2 weeks, we gave away over $500 cash,
Really? Well,
and that was to a lot of people.
I mean, I don't even understand how
And
this works at all. Is there like a colored pen? And if you
there are
knock that,
three colored pins in each rack, and depending on their position when the pins are set, if it's a colored head pin, you get $1 if you make a natural strike. If it's a
oh,
1-2 or the 1-3, it's $2. If it's 1-2 4 or the 1-3 6, it's $3 if you make a natural strike. If you leave a a colored pin in your rack and you get the spare, that's 50 cents. If you bowl at 300, which this is a 9-pin no tap, which means if you knock 9 pins down, it's a strike.
yeah,
If you bowl at 300, which is possible,
yeah.
we pay $100 to the first five that roll a 300 every Saturday night.
Oh, really?
And so it's engaging for the better bowler. It's fun for the novice bowler.
I haven't been in 20 years. I want to learn. What do I do? I don't
You
aspire to be a perfect bowler, or whatever. I don't know that I want private lessons. What night would I come out? How would I begin?
Monday and Tuesday we do 3 games for the price of two. Anytime during the day, Monday and Tuesday. If you come on Monday and Tuesday, we're fairly light traffic wise right now.
Yeah,
I expect that to change in the fall, but we can give you one-on-one time.
really?
When Josh Imhoff starts on the 1st of August, he can actually give you some lessons. The best thing is getting equipment that fits. It's like any sport. I had a bowler the other day, and he was bowling and he was talking about his ball didn't do this. And I asked him how many clubs he took to the golf course. And he said, well, I take sometimes 14. And I pointed to my balls. There's 10 sitting on the table. I have 10 balls. Every bowler that bowls any tournaments probably has 20 balls because you're playing a condition that we put on the lane. In golf, you're playing a condition of the grass, the slope, whatever that hole has in it, and you pull the club out to play that hole. If you played a whole golf hole with a putter, your score would be horrible.
Of course.
And
Okay. How would you tee off with a putter? How would you
right,
how would you take a wood and try and putt with a wood? I got it. Well,
and equipment is key.
Well, see, for myself and my naivete, I've been friends with Jeff for 20 years now. And he has a nice truck, quad cab, and he's got a nice cover over the back of it. And I'm like, why did you buy the cover? He said, well, to protect the bowling balls. I'm like, the bowling balls, well, it's just you. You know, how many bowling balls do you need in the quad cab? He's like, oh, I take 20 or 25. I'm like, what?
Yep.
And unbeknownst to me, he was like, well, my sponsor wants me to have this kind of ball and this kind of, you got a sponsor? Anyway, showed my naivete more than anything else in the situation. So amazing. What's the anticipated dates on all this? When do you think you might be done?
Well, it looks like I talked to Brunswick earlier this morning. It looks like November is going to be when our lane surfaces are going to be prepared to be installed.
Right.
Right now, they're getting me the final numbers together so that I can go to the bank with what we're going to need to do the expansion. The bank's already been down and looked at everything. They love everything. Just getting that final group together to get that $3 million to go ahead and start the expansion. I want to start the expansion before the end of fall.
Yeah, no, I can understand. Well, and like I say, I've just been an outsider looking in, and you know, Jeff talks about being in Vegas or Dallas or Memphis or Nashville or the villages or whatever, and talking about how, you know, the condition of the lanes is just completely different. You know, yeah, he plays here at the village, you know, every week or whatever. He, you know, to stay in shape.
He bowls every Saturday night.
Yeah, but then also to know that these lanes weren't to the level that he's used to when he goes to national events. Well, it's Hot Springs Village. You know, we got 19,000 people. We don't have 250,000 or 500,000 people. And to have that kind of amenity here, oh my goodness, this man.
Well, I mean, you have to look in what people don't know about the center is the center was purchased as a used package when it was built originally.
A youth package?
Yep. The pin setters are Brunswick. The scoring system is AMF. The lanes are DBA, and the ball returns are Vantage.
It couldn't be more disparate.
Right. So they basically bought a package of used parts and put the bowling center together. So all the parts that were there were over 10, 15 years old when they were put in 22 years ago.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. And I'm sorry, I thought at one point, I thought you said youth. You said used. I'm sorry.
Used.
Me and my hearing. Okay. My wife will remind me about my hearing. We'll have that discussion. Well, I tell you what, let's shift gears just a little, change lanes.
Yeah.
tell me how you got here. Tell me I don't know the story. How did were you born in Arkansas? Tell me how you got here.
My dad was born in Arkansas.
Yeah.
His family was from Prescott, Arkansas, down in the South.
Delta.
Yes, my grandparents moved to Fort Worth, Texas when my dad was junior high age.
Mm-hmm.
I was born in Fort Worth. I was raised in Arlington. My parents moved back here. You're going to make me think of dates, and I can't think of dates. I graduated high school in 82, and my parents moved back up here somewhere in 86, 87.
Okay. And then you say here, Hot Springs.
Hot Springs.
Yeah. Okay.
Hot Springs. And we had come up here on vacation when I was a kid. We were water skiers. Mm-hmm. And so we would come to Lake DeGray every year to water ski.
What a perfect place for that. What a perfect place for that.
And so I moved back close to 30 years ago. I started a construction company. Did residential and commercial construction. I actually met my wife at a bowling center. because I was a coach and I was given, and her mother asked me to give her son lessons.
Mm. Mm.
And so,
Mm.
um, I have done commercial construction up until a few years ago. I had a contract with a industrial electrical contractor,
Mm-hmm.
and I did underground and some high voltage stuff for them. And I was electrocuted in 2019, I believe. And my wife was not happy with my current
Your current,
vocation.
yeah, your current location, yeah.
And so her and her mom had looked at some property investment stuff. And so we decided that's what we were going to do. And that's when we purchased some rental property in Florida. We have rental property here. We have a large building downtown that we have tenants in there as well. And so I started managing property.
So let me get this straight. So property management is somewhat less deadly than high line, high current work. Is that close?
Almost.
Almost. Was this a 440 thing, or what did you get hit with?
It was 11,000. It was 5,000 and ramped up to 11,000 volts by the time it tripped out.
And how long did it take you to recover from that, if you have?
That was another point. I went to work 2 days later. My wife wasn't happy about that.
I'm hearing a trend that your wife's not too happy about some of your activities, Larry. And frankly, I don't think mine would be thrilled with them either. My wife doesn't even know you, and she wouldn't be happy with that process. Unbelievable. Well, so what I'm hearing is that you're lazy, is what I heard, and you just don't like to work. Is that what it was?
That's part of it.
Well, let me tell my story real quick, if you don't mind. I had a buddy that worked at Simpson Press / McKay Hartle in North Little Rock. And over in North Little Rock, they've got by the old Jacksonville Highway, they got a real low bridge. And it's anyway, it's a real low bridge, and the Bob trucks and stuff can't go that way, right? Because it's so low there. They filmed some movies there before. There's an old gas station there. It's beautiful, but it's just you just don't go that way. And so the buddy was sitting here, and he was eating his lunch, and the salesman comes in and he says, "I just saw the funniest thing ever. It's the dumbest truck driver I've ever seen." And he was like, "What?" He said, "The dumbest truck driver I've ever seen." He said he went under that bridge. He said, "Ripped that box all off. It was the funniest thing." And my buddy went, "Whoa. What color was the truck?" he said, "It was a white one, just like." They looked out in the parking lot. And the guy was pulling up in the Bob truck, dragging the box behind him in just pieces and sheets. Oh my gosh! Yeah. That was the funniest thing he'd ever seen until he went, "What color was the truck?"
Yeah,
it was ours. Exactly. It was ours. So I tell you what, I've got to let you go. We can't keep you too much longer. Would you come back and visit with us and give us some updates as you go?
I can.
I tell you what, I'm excited to hear the story. I really am, and maybe we can drag that
question. Are you going to come bowling?
I tell you what, I will be happy to come bowling. And actually, I've done moderately well. My son-in-law, you may know, Izzy Van, Israel Van. Great guy, has the most beautiful twins, my grandbabies, on the planet, and they are just like they're the Olsen twins before they became dysfunctional, I think. But that's just me. They're still in the beautiful, cute stage. Right. But my lovely wife has never picked up a bowling ball. Okay. We're all good friends with Jeff. We've been business partners with Jeff for 10 years. He's in the Bowler Hall of Fame, and she's never picked up a bowling ball. And more than once, Jeff has said, "Come down on a Tuesday night. I'll give you lessons. I'll show you how." And Jeff, he's unassuming and easygoing. He'd make a great teacher, Right. Still just hadn't done it. I tell you what, I will not only tell you that I will come bowling, I'll tell you I'll bring my lovely wife bowling. How about that?
I was going to say they can bowl. My mother-in-law bowls on our team, and my wife bowls.
Really?
So Yep.
So, okay, okay. One more topic we need to address real quick. I see pro bowlers, and these guys, as the rule, they're relatively fit. They can throw the ball down the lane at what looks like 150 miles an hour, and the pins explode on the opposite end. That is not necessarily what it takes for a good bowler. Am I correct?
Correct. If the ball rolls into the pins correctly, it does more damage than a ball that's flying 25 miles an hour.
Really?
Really.
So, okay. And I don't even know. I've seen people with 13, 14-pound balls, that kind of thing. And, my wife's not a big girl. She's not going to take a large ball and heave it down the aisle.
Right.
So it's the right equipment. Again, is that the topic?
It's the right equipment and it's the right angle.
Really?
Yep.
And I get the feeling that I could learn this relatively for free. Is that what I'm hearing?
You could.
Tell you what, let's do. Let's circle back around. Are you going to have an organized class for learning of some sort? Or, I mean,
I'm putting on a oil pattern class because most people don't understand oil patterns. That's part of my Saturday night. I change the oil pattern every week.
let's back up to the 5 Mile High view. I know what you're talking about simply because I'm friends with Jeff. Tell me what the oil pattern is.
Well, each lane has a conditioner put on it, and that
Okay.
conditioner is put on in several different patterns to affect the way the ball hooks or sees friction as it goes down the lane. In a PBA instance, the oil is very heavy, and so the ball has to have a lot of revolutions before it ever sees friction so that it can start moving to the pocket.
So it can grip, as you would say,
Right,
or
right. And
catch.
in most recreational bowlers, they have a standard house shot. That house shot is what we call a Christmas tree. The center of the pattern looks like a Christmas tree.
Right.
The outside is basically just brush oil. And so the ball can see friction fairly easily and fairly soon
I
so that it
see.
can start making its move to the pocket. I put out a pattern this last Saturday that's one of the hardest patterns Kegel puts out, and the scores were exactly where I figured they would be. A great bowler that I think is probably one of the best in Central Arkansas bowled a 605 for his 3-game series, 9-pin no tap.
Wow.
He
Wow.
he could normally on a normal house shot, if we had but done a 9-pin, he could have bowled 300s without much problem.
So you're telling me, and I hear this repeatedly from Jeff, and he talks about it's the equipment, it's the setup of the lanes, it's the whatever. And I know this is a poor analogy. I know it's a very poor analogy, but for drag racing, okay, you have a car that makes this much horsepower, you have these tires that are going to grip, and there's a guy out here laying down adhesive or a gripping
Right.
agent or an oil on the track, and he has as much to do with how you're going to do as the mechanic back in the back that put a little more gas in the line or something, right?
Exactly. And the difference today versus 25 years ago
Mm-hmm.
is there's 1,000 oil patterns. And depending on the oil pattern's length, volume, and all that depends on the equipment you have to throw. And the ball manufacturers love it because it enables them to produce 20 balls a year that people will buy because they react different depending on the condition of the lane.
Now, do you notify people, hey, we're doing the Christmas tree today, or we're
I
doing the
I I on Saturday, I tell on Wednesday what the oil pattern is going to be for Saturday night. I lay that oil pattern down at 5 o'clock on Friday if you want to come practice on it so that you know in advance what it's going to be, because I have guys that come from Cabot or Greenbrier or Conway and they bring 20 balls because they're
really?
not sure exactly how that pattern's going to react. And so they bring all the equipment they need.
This is absolutely fascinating. By the way, I've got and I don't know if maybe I'm rehashing old ground. Uh, do the Boomers have a bowling grab that you know of?
I don't know that.
Okay, the HSV Boomers which is the 50 plus group.
Right.
They have a ping pong group, they have a golf group, they have a hiking trail, we have a bingo group, we have a casino night, we have a, you name it. The Boomers is the largest and the most active group in the village. If there's not a bowler group now, let me try and connect you and we'll make one. And I think that would be a lot of fun for a lot of people. And really, let's just phrase it this way, basically kind of reconnect with a childhood sport, right?
Exactly. And it can be as simple and as fun as you want it to be, and it can be as advanced and competitive as you want it to be. That depends on the group that you want to bowl with, because we have women that bowl during the day and they're competitive, but they have a good time.
Yeah.
We have couples leagues, we have mixed leagues, we have a men's group that's highly competitive. And so it just depends on what group you want to bowl with.
Yeah, my mom was telling Diane, we had a concert Thursday night here in the village, and I went and picked my parents up and came back. So we had decided to talk with them in the car. They live in Benton. And as we were coming back, Mom said, yeah, I was in a church bowling league at one time. I'd never bowled before in my life. And she said, I started in the 40s and I ended in the hundreds. And she said, I won an award. I was the most improved. And Diane said, I can do that. I can do that. There's a goal I can go to. Most improved.
And what most people don't understand in the league setting is a guy that carries a 200 average is at an extreme disadvantage.
Because he has something to lose?
Because unless he bowls great every week, he has no handicap to help him out.
I got it.
An 80-pin bowler that can bowl 95 can beat him every time because they get a big advantage.
How about, okay, you're going to have to come back and explain that to us sometime. Seriously. I tell you what, let's put you up for like 6 to 8 weeks. Let's get a progress report and we'll come back around and see you. Okay.
Okay. That sounds great.
Larry, it's been an absolute pleasure. For Hot Springs Village Inside Out, I'm Dennis Simpson. He's Larry Rhodes. Randy Cantrell will be back and join us next time for Hot Springs Village Inside Out. We'll see you next time.
Thanks,
Larry.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Hot Springs Village Inside Out, a podcast where Hot Springs Village, Arkansas is the star. Please subscribe to the podcast. You can do that by visiting our website, hsvinsideout.com, and tell a friend.